Welcome back to Strawberry Ink, where we dive deep into the stories that leave us questioning justice, the twists of fate, and the lives forever altered by crime. I'm your host, Santiago, and in today's episode, we're covering the chilling and complicated case of Nikki Sue Entzel, a woman who plotted the murder of her husband, Chad Entzel, for the sake of money and the life she dreamed of with her lover, Earl Howard. This is a case I've been wanting to cover for a while. I am doing so joined by my two puppies. That's why you may hear some silly background noises throughout the episode. This case is one that unveils the dark side of human desire, manipulation, and the ultimate consequences of betrayal. As someone who's been an Ohio resident for about 7 years, I have experienced the stupidity of the whites, especially the white supremacy. Mostly the white supremacy. The white supremacy is a pussy community. The white supremacy is a large group of people. They are cowards, expressors of stupidity, pussies. Racist, homophobic, transphobic, discriminating, oppressing, and idiots. They are disrespectful, reporting any small offense to the police, repeated messages, stuff like that. They are a lack of respect. You do not go to the police for small telecommunications harassment. It's crazy how pussy the white supremacy has gone. They think they are powerful. They think they have the right to cuss at you on a holiday, even if you wish them a holiday. It's crazy how they think they're the intimidating ones, the ruler, but they're really just a bunch of stupid pussies. Down, Whitey, down. Leave the people of color alone. You respect, 'cause your ancestors and yourselves have not respected. Saturday was April 19th, the anniversary of the shooting. Raymond Ladd and Shamar Franklin in Ohio State University are accused of plotting out. The shooting got a manager killed, but let me tell you, Ohio State University has a campus police department that is harassing. Their institution is formed and run by the white supremacy. Their campus was funded by the KKK, and to this day, Ohio State University's campus continues to be one run by the KKK, run by the white supremacy, an oppressing area. An area of negativity and injustice. They work together with the Columbus Division of Police, a stupid law enforcement agency whom are disrespectful and do not do their jobs right. They deserve to be defunded, and citizens of this place deserve to focus on the Franklin County Sheriff's Office instead of the Columbus Division of Police, instead of the Hilliard Police Department, all those small departments, the South Point Police Department. They are worthless, they are stupid departments, they are a waste of tax money. So is the institutions in OSU, the law enforcement department, the catering department, all of that. Screw them, defund them. Take a knee when they play the national anthem. And try your best to avoid having your tax money be sent to them, 'cause that is a waste of tax money. That is a marginal way to spend community fundings. Anyways, let's get back to the story. It was January 2020 when the police were called to investigate the suspicious death of Chad Entzel, a man who had been tragically shot twice before his home was set ablaze, on fire, with his body still inside. Authorities quickly realized this wasn't just a random act of violence, it was part of a carefully orchestrated, gruesome plan. Nikki Sue Entzel, Chad's wife, and Earl Howard, a man whom Nikki Sue was allegedly having an affair with, were at the center of the cowardly plot. The two had conspired to kill Chad so they could cash in on his life insurance policy. The evidence painted a damning picture. Surveillance footage showed Nikki Sue and Earl acting suspiciously before and after the fire. Phone records linked them both to key conversations, including discussions about Chad's whereabouts and the planning of his death. Security system activity and bank records told the story of how the crime was financed and executed. But what about Nikki, the woman at the heart of the crime, the one who stood to gain the most from Chad's death, was anything but an innocent bystander? When the case went to trial, the prosecution painted a clear picture of premeditated murder. Detective Aaron Silbernagel took the stand, recounting the arrest interview with Nikki. The fire was ruled foul play. It had been started by someone. The fire at the house had not occurred by accident. That is according to the Burleigh County Fire Department. The body of Chad was taken in by the North Dakota State Forensics Examiner's Office in Bismarck. Nikki had dialed 911 to report the house fire at Chad's residence. She said that she showed up at the residence because Chad's manager had called her, claiming he did not show up to work that day. What a stupid excuse to show up at the residence of someone you hate. Upon entering the burning home, the firefighters had discovered Chad's body. At the forensics examiner's office where it was taken, Dr. William Masello conducted the autopsy. His remains were confirmed as Chad Entzel through DNA testing. It appears that he had been dead already before the fire started. He had died after suffering 2 gunshot wounds to the head and had bled to death. Therefore, his death was ruled a murder and a criminal investigation would start. A celebration of life was held for Chad on January 8, 2020, at the Parkway Funeral Home in Bismarck. He was cremated. The ashes were given to his family. Deputies were tracking Nikki down as she was making a phone call to the insurance company to ask for money. When Burleigh County Sheriff deputies arrived, they saw Nikki outside of her home. Burleigh County Sheriff deputies tracked down the phone call and arrived at Nikki Sue's home. Nikki Sue was outside using her phone, calling the insurance. She was in the front yard, chilling, and talking on that phone call when deputies arrived to arrest her. The Burleigh County Sheriff's Office's deputies took her to their headquarters to process her. She was afterwards booked into the Burleigh Morton Detention Center on 3 conspiracy charges in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degree, all felonies. She appeared on June 8, 2020, before surrogate judge Gail Haggerty, whom set her bond to $500,000 cash only. This meant that she would remain in custody to await trial. Her case was assigned to State Attorney Justin Balzer. Nikki requested a public defender to represent her. She was assigned to attorney Todd Ewell. Then, a day after that, Earl was arrested on January 9, 2022. He was captured on the Blue Water Bridge, which goes from Michigan to Canada. He had been captured by border protection officers while attempting to flee the country. They took him to their headquarters in Port Huron. He was then taken to the Port Huron Police Department station, where he was informed that he was wanted for murder in North Dakota. Earl was then booked into Michigan's St. Clair County Jail, pending extradition back to North Dakota. The following day, he appeared before District Judge Michael Hulwicks and waived extradition. He was shortly after driven back to North Dakota. His first stop was the Burleigh County Sheriff's Office's headquarters for another processing session. And afterwards, he was booked into the Burleigh Morton Detention Center. Earl was booked into that detention center on 3 conspiracy charges in the 1st degree, 2nd degree, and 3rd degree, just like Nikki Sue. However, he was as well booked for 1st degree murder, 2nd degree arson, all felonies. After being booked into that detention center, the following day, he appeared before District Judge Bruce Romanick, whom set a cash-only bond of $1 million to ensure that he would remain in custody to await trial. Earl refused to set a plea at this point, therefore, the case would continue without one. The case was assigned to prosecutor Philip Betcher. Earl was assigned to public defender Jared Geitzen. Both would have several pretrial hearings held by Judge Douglas Barr. Nikki Sue's defense tried to convince her to take a plea deal, but she refused to do so. Earl, on the other hand, reached a plea deal. And on October 22, 2021, he pleaded guilty to the 3 conspiracy charges and the arson charge. Therefore, the murder charge was dropped with the deal. Nikki pleaded not guilty to her charges and asked for her bond to be changed in order for her to be released. However, Judge Barr refused to do so. Jury selection took place on September 26, 2022 for Nikki Sue's trial in the Burleigh County District Court. It was selected within a day. The jurors were afterwards taken to the home where the fire occurred to observe the setting of the crime case. The following day, the trial officially started. The prosecution painted a clear picture of premeditated murder. Detective Aaron Silbernagel took the stand, recounting the arrest interview with Nikki. During this interview, Nikki made a critical statement. Earl had returned alone to the crime scene, but that statement was contradicted by surveillance footage, raising even more doubts about her version of events. But it wasn't the contradictions in her story that sealed her fate. During the trial, the prosecution introduced multiple pieces of digital and circumstantial evidence, which revealed a timeline of conspiracy that started long before the murder. The defense strategy hinged on one key argument, that Nikki was being manipulated and controlled by Earl. She claimed that Earl was abusive, that he dominated the planning, and that she had lied to Chad's workplace about his absence, attributing it to drinking games. Yet, Nikki's inconsistencies, especially her shifting stories, her marginal lies about her own actions and her involvement in the crime, only served to weaken her defense. The day after jury selection, the former medical examiner testified that there was evidence of both a gunshot and fire damage on Chad Entzel's body, supported by photographs. The gunshot wound entered through his left upper arm and impacted his shoulder. Additional images showed further injuries and physical evidence such as x-rays, hair samples, bone fragments, and shell casings. That evidence was presented. Chad's blood alcohol level was 0.069, and there was no signs of alcohol or substance abuse. After the medical examiner's testimony, court adjourned for the day. It was a long testimony. Once the trial exited, the judge addressed a defense objection regarding the medical photos, which had been overruled during the session. Following the break, Chad's mother testified. She said Chad had never shown signs of abuse, either in his relationship with Nikki Sue or in his previous marriage, and noted that he got along well with Nikki's son, Christopher. Although Nikki had claimed Chad had been drinking, his mother saw no indication of this. She also mentioned that during their last family Christmas gathering, Chad's final visit, he and Nikki drove separately, with Nikki leaving earlier, saying she wanted to go to the gym. Chad's younger sister then took the stand, sharing her own positive memories of him. She recalled that Nikki had once said the couple had arguments and that Chad struggled with drinking, though he never sought help. She described Chad as giggly when intoxicated. Nikki had also mentioned bruises, but claimed they were due to a blood cancer diagnosis. Next, a physician assistant and county coroner testified. They noted trauma to the body, including gunshot wounds to the back left of the head and the left shoulder. The coroner estimated that Chad had been dead for around 36 hours and concluded the gunshot was the likely cause of death. The jury then heard a voicemail between Nikki Sue Entzel and her home insurance company, in which she claimed the furnace had issues reigniting. Nikki also mentioned her 18-year-old autistic son during the call, seemingly without relevance. The insurance provider said they would send a team to inspect the house. Nikki stated she had receipts for her jewelry, but declined to participate in a property inspection with Service Master. A break was called until 3:05 p.m. Finally, the former North Dakota medical examiner who performed Chad's autopsy testified again, confirming that the warm environment had sped up the body's decomposition. The judge opened the day by explaining the trial process, outlining the charges and defining legal terms the court would be using. He provided a summary of the case and the evidence collected so far, followed by the opening statements. The first witness called had been a 911 dispatcher who testified that two unusual calls had been received, one in the early afternoon and another at 5:20 p.m. The latter call was played for the jury. Testimony afterwards had begun, with a firefighter from the Bismarck Fire Department who responded to the blaze. Throughout the trial, technical difficulties interrupted KX's newsfeed for about 5 minutes after a lunch break. Due to their staff complaining, it caused delays even in the trial itself. A voicemail concerning Nikki Entzel's jewelry insurance policies had been played for the jury before court went to eat lunch. The jurors ate their lunch in shock and very curious on knowing what occurred next. After returning from that lunch break, an officer testified that Nikki Sue Entzel often provided unnecessary information during interactions. Next, a special agent and certified fire investigator with the ATF reviewed the home's floor plan and testified that there were two separate fires in the home, one in the master bedroom and another in the basement, which appeared to have been set independently. The furnace's insulation was intact, suggesting the fire was not accidental but intentionally set. A firefighter gave further insight into the fire response and the condition of Chad Entzel's body. It was also noted that there were no smoke detectors in the home. After a short break, another member of the Bismarck Fire Department testified that the furnace's cover appeared to have been removed and propped up. A Burleigh County Sheriff's deputy testified about his intentional interaction with Nikki Sue. He described her demeanor as casual, like meeting someone at a grocery store. Nikki showed him photos of alleged physical abuse by her husband and said that she planned to move to Austin, Texas, where she had a job interview scheduled. The officer remarked that the photos seemed pre-selected, lacking any dates or identifiers. Nikki also asked deputies to retrieve 2 Amazon boxes from a car in the driveway, which contained 2 cell phones. He also noted that a sudden emotional shift had occurred when she took a phone call inside the vehicle. Nikki claimed she wasn't staying at the house due to furnace issues. On the second day of the trial, the video interview of Nikki at the headquarters had concluded, with Nikki claiming that another man had been in the house arguing with Chad in the bedroom, a big lie. She described the man in his mid-40s and smelling of Crown Royal. A sketch of this man was presented in court. Nikki also alleged that Chad was deeply in debt due to gambling. Nikki stated she waited in the car while Earl Howard was inside the house and claimed that the gunshot occurred during that time. She said Earl told her Chad was no longer alive upon returning and admitted it was Earl who shot Chad and suggested setting the fire. Nikki confessed to feeling a sense of relief after Chad's death and claimed Earl later kicked over a propane heater during a second visit to the home. She said she called Chad's work to report him sick on Tuesday and didn't check on him afterward, despite concerns from coworkers, because she was afraid. Nikki wrote a confession and statement at the end of the interview, but attempted to destroy it, though police recovered the document and presented it in court. Officers also seized Nikki's personal items, including her jacket, phone, purse, clothing, and wedding ring. After only a few days of evidence, the jury deliberated. The deliberation took 8 hours. The jury returned with a guilty verdict on all counts. The details of the crime were laid bare for the world to see. Nikki, once a seemingly loving wife, had orchestrated a brutal plan to secure a life of freedom with her lover, no matter the cost. She thought the plan would be successful. She, like a coward, lied. However, thankfully, the plan failed, and 2 scummed individuals are now incarcerated. In December 2022, sentencing was set. The month after the verdict, Judge Barr refused to toss the conviction. Then on December 21st, he ruled from the PSI report that Nikki Sue Entzel had a 58% chance of reoffending if she got out of prison, a rate considered to be high. Therefore, this judge knew that he had to give a lengthy sentence to her. On January 2023, Judge Barr refused to declare a retrial and said on his count the conviction would stand, and that if she wanted a new trial or to be cleared, she had to appeal her case to the higher courts, which is what she did. On February 17, 2023, Judge Barr sentenced Nikki to prison for 36 years to life. That was for the first-degree conspiracy charge. For the other 2 charges, she got an additional 10 years in prison and 3 years of probation, as well as an additional 5 years in prison and 3-year probation, all consecutive sentences. Therefore, she got a total of about 52 years in prison and 6 years of probation to be served afterwards if she got out. Now, let me discuss the sentencing of Earl. On Valentine's Day in 2022, Judge Barr sentenced him to 25 years in prison, followed by 5-year probation for first-degree conspiracy, 3 years of probation along with a 10-year suspended prison sentence for second-degree conspiracy, the same sentence for the arson charge, and 3 years of probation along with a 5-year suspended prison sentence for third-degree conspiracy. All terms would be run concurrently to one another. While serving his probation, if he commits a violation, he will be returned to prison to serve the suspended terms. He is currently serving his prison sentence at the James River Correctional Institution in Jamestown, North Dakota. Due to his plea deal, he has waived his right to appeal. On the other hand, Nikki did appeal her case. She first appealed to the North Dakota Supreme Court. Defender Samuel Garasek was appointed to represent her in this next phase, while State Attorney Julie Lawyer is serving as a prosecutor for the phase, trying to have the appeal fail. On September 28, 2023, this Supreme Court rejected the appeal and she was denied a new trial. The appeal was then sent over to the United States Supreme Court. However, on November 21st, 2024, they refused to hear the case. Now, Nikki has 2 ways left to possibly be freed. Either to have the Innocence Project clear her, or have the North Dakota Governor Kelly Armstrong pardon her. First, the Innocence Project would review it. That is currently pending as of April 2025. She is currently imprisoned at the Women's Correctional and Rehabilitation Center in New England, North Dakota. That's all for today's episode of Strawberry Ink. Thank you for joining me in this twisted case. As always, don't forget to follow the show, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, to like the episode. For more true crime stories that keep you questioning everything, please share my content to your loved ones. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep asking the hard questions. And don't let the white supremacy get to you. Down, Whitey. Have a good rest of your day.